Now, some people feel they must rely on God. Fine. Others feel that they have confidence in nature, reason, scientific method, a nation, a church, the Bible, so on and so forth. We are all, regardless of where we place our confidence, we are all asking, what is sacred? What is ultimately reliable to me? If we negotiate life without faith, no confidence in anything, nothing is reliable, we fall into despair. Life is meaningless then, permeated with pathos. It's all chaos, or to use an existentialist term, if I may, it's all absurd. If you really have no faith, then life looks a lot like Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder uphill and then watch it roll back down for an eternity or until you die. When life is perceived as meaningless, it becomes utterly absurd, as Sisyphus. Our very complex world today feels saturated with meaninglessness, greed, pure self-interest, exploitation, war, environmental degradation, hunger, violence. What sustains us? Are we really free of any kind of faith? You know, that's what drove Kierkegaard to taking his leap to faith in the first place. He was, at one point in his life, rid of all faith. He was free. He was a free man. And he looked around in his freedom, and he only saw life as empty. In fact, he used the word absurd. And although he condemned all the absolutes of Christianity, he freely made a decision to find meaning in the transcendent. And thus he took his leap to faith. Without faith, without hope in a caring, hope in a humane world, without confidence that, yes, there is meaning in life, you take that away, and we fall victim to utter despair, which is another way of saying hopelessness. Here's kind of a test. Don't you think that the more cynical you get about the world, the more you lose your faith. You have less confidence in the world. Isn't cynicism the acid that corrodes faith and confidence in anything that you personally might hold sacred? So faith, our speculation that it really does all somehow matter, is what keeps us on this side of the precipice without going over into despair. Hans Küng, one of the great radical priests and theologian of our day, although he is 82 years old, has just published his latest book called What I Believe. He has always demonstrated a need to unmask the illusions created by uncritical religion. And thus he has not only been excommunicated by the Catholic Church, but remains a thorn in the side of every pope and every authoritarian who ever took a breath of air in Rome. Küng used neither the word faith nor confidence, but in his latest book, he opted for the word trust. In our freedom, he says, we have to have the ability to say yes to life. We do so only if there is trust. Without trust, we have only nihilism and cynicism. They both point to what he calls mistrust in life. Isn't that a great way of phrasing it? A cynical person has a mistrust in life. I think we can all correlate our own feelings of occasional despair. I mean, we all slip sometimes. We feel despair. And what happens when we feel that despair is that our trust in life is waning. That's why we despair. Religion, then, can be construed as a venture into trusting life, learning how to trust life, finding the means, the substance of trusting life. It entails a very fundamental trust in yourself, trust in others, a trust in this world. Now, I may have thrown some shocking things at you this morning, shocking at least to liberal sensibilities. Faith, confidence, speculation, reliability, sacred, trust. These are not typical liberal religious terms. But do we really think that we are free of them? Is not our trust in life informed by a faith in the inherent worth and dignity of all people? Do we not hold confidence in a humanity that is able to locate compassion at its very core? Do we not have faith in the prospects of a more just world? If we don't, then how do we keep falling off the edge into hell itself if we don't maintain that faith? Now, I'd like to think that our reading this morning served as a simple metaphor for faith. Standing on the side of the road for 3 hours with a flat tire and no tire iron can certainly test one's faith. As each hour passed with no one stopping to help, you can feel a growing sense of despair. But in the end, his confidence in humanity paid dividends when an immigrant Mexican family offered more help than he had ever conceived as possible. You might say he was touched by grace, and it changed his life. I refer to the story as an example of having faith in a benevolent reality. Believing, having confidence, trust that humanity has at least the potential to cooperate with, care for one another. Is this not a belief that we hold sacred? Is this not what we rely upon to help us through the darkest of hours? And finally, the contrast between faith and hopelessness comes to light when comparing two transcendentalist writers, both in the same time period, both Unitarians, both transcendentalists, Ralph Waldo Emerson on the one side and Herman Melville on the other. Through Emerson's many essays, he clearly delineates his beliefs that at the very core of existence, we have moral resources. Our nature is beneficent, and you combine the morality and our nature, and you come to the conclusion that we have the possibility of transforming this world. That's on one side. Now, I don't know the last time you looked at Moby Dick, but for Melville, life is so different. Life is utterly oblivious to human needs. Human hope was destroyed in the hunt for the great white whale. To hunt the white whale in heroic opposition to suffering and death, to seek to slay him and to be slain by him, ultimately remains our fate. Life teeters on the absurd for Melville. Emerson trusted the divine in the human soul and in nature. And from that he could fashion purpose and meaning and hope. Melville had no such faith or confidence or trust in life. For him, life was hopeless. It was a hopeless fight with no redemption. He said, we cannot rise to be masters of our fate because essentially life is meaningless. And it's reducing Moby Dick to its most basic element. But it's the absurdity that really colors Melville's Moby Dick. To be honest, faith is constantly challenged by the facts of the world: war, tyranny, plight of refugees, reigns of terror. Faith in transforming this world into a paradise of justice and abundance grows ever more speculative. But without this faith, we fall into the abyss. Without this faith, man, it is cold and alone out there. And so I see the role that we play as liberal religionists. Our role is unmasking the illusions perpetuated by uncritical religion without undermining the elements of faith. If all we can offer as a church, as a denomination, if all we can offer is freedom from, without specifying a freedom to, then our religious tasks remain so empty and certainly unfulfilled. We are in the business of helping people find their faith and to sustain their faith. Their faith has nothing to do, let me repeat it, nothing to do with a belief in God, as much as it deals with strengthening a confidence that, life holds meaning. If we are unable, as a religious denomination, to say yes to life, if we're unable to play in life's sacredness, then we're not doing our job as custodians of the Unitarian Universalist faith. A leap to faith. I think many of us have already done that without being really conscious of doing so. In other words, you probably have more faith than you think. But I hope that the concepts of faith have been broadened a bit. Faith is not what religious liberals need to fear or work against. Human love, human cooperation, human compassion allow me to trust the world. I have a deep and abiding faith in life's meaning and that our purpose on this earth, under the stars, can be discerned. I'll be the first to admit that, it took a leap to get there. There are no certainties, nor any empirical evidence. But that's what religion is all about. Even for liberals, it requires a leap to faith.